So at the end of each episode, somebody's going to have the opportunity to win a swim buddy, a pair of goggles, and a bright colored swim cap, something that Mark brought up last year, the open water swim safety kit, so you can be visible in the water. Mark is the open water guru that I know. Like Mark, he's written 2 books on the subject. He swims every day. He teaches it. You know, like he would eat it if he could.
And sometimes I do.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to open up just by talking to you, Andrea. So, you know, you guys have been out at Kits. I've seen the Wowzas in full force. How's the water? How's the swimming?
It's fantastic. It's actually warming up. I've been in there all year, and it was a very cold winter. So it's taking a little bit of time warming up, but swimming it in the ocean the other day, it was 16 degrees. So it's really like, wow, what a relief. And people are so happy. And the sun is coming out. Yeah, it's really good.
I kind of want to let you and Mark just kind of have the conversational back and forth because, and I'll be honest about open water swimming. I love swimming in the ocean. I am absolutely terrified of swimming in lakes. Right?
I told you that.
But that said, you know, I know that, you know, from you know, an enthusiast point of view, like you two are in the water all the time, right? So, I mean, Mark, I don't know if you have any questions for Andrea or, you know, anything that you want to offer. I'm sure you do.
Just one housekeeping question. I just found there was an echo when you were speaking, Andrea.
Oh.
And I don't know if that's because you've got a cell phone on at the same time or something.
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Are you hearing that as well, Andrea?
I'm not.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway,
So
I can understand you, but sometimes it's echoing. That's all.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down the volume on my speakers, and that might help.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I'm delighted to hear that you guys are already in the water. We're not quite there yet. At least the majority of us are not even. I'm going to attempt going in the water maybe tomorrow. But it's like the water's 12 here, right?
Oh.
It hurts a little, you know. But I must admit, it's a great when the water is cold, and I think that's really something that we think about a lot here, and I'm sure you do to some extent as well. It's interesting how often people can feel totally comfortable swimming in a pool, and literally the next day kind of go out and go, gee, I can swim 2,000 meters in a pool, but I can't swim 100 meters out here without sort of feeling anxious or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Jason, I'm curious to hear why a lake freaks you out more than an ocean does.
I mean, it's a great question, and I guess to be completely transparent about it, it's any body of water where I can't see the bottom.
Oh,
right.
But you
like,
can't
it doesn't matter how deep it is. Like if
ocean.
I'm swimming in a clear ocean and it's 50, 60, 100 feet deep and I can see the bottom, totally fine. Right. You know, that said, I can relate back to an experience I had years ago. I was traveling through Australia, and we were rafting the Tully River in Queensland, which is an absolute madhouse of a river for rafting. You know, at times it's just like it's a literal death trap. Anyways, we got thrown out of the boat at one point, and we're wearing the life jackets and so on and so forth. And you know, I had a friend close to me, and actually we weren't wearing life jackets because we had just come off the river. We were about to go do some jump off a rock or something like that, but the boat had capsized and so on and so forth. Anyways, one of my friends was there next to me, and he must have seen a look on my face, right? Like a look of panic. And he just stopped and put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Man, you're good. Just relax." Right. And after that, I was totally fine. Right. So I think it's just dropping out of that initial, like, holy cow, where am I, being completely disoriented, you know?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have swum in Vancouver, and I can't remember seeing bottom at 20 and 30 feet though. Here we have fairly clear water for the most part, but you're right. I think much past 6 or 8 feet deep, you don't see the bottom either. Is that true with you, Andrea? Are you able to see the bottom?
In the winter, like end of season in the fall, it gets really clear because the temperature starts to drop, and it's wonderful to swim where we have these little spots down at Jericho, and it kits where you can see the bottom and you can see crabs walking along.
Oh,
And it's amazing when it's a little cooler, because you can see a lot. Right now it's getting a little muddy because the snowpack's melting and debris coming in coming down from the rivers. You know, honestly, I don't even think about it. It's just, I mean, I grew up here and I swam here, but I also, you know, our family went to the Okanagan for swimming. So I'd swum there since I don't even remember swimming there. But when I do go there and swim, I love seeing the fish. You know, I swim over top of the fish that are swimming along, and it's just magical to be able to see what you're swimming with. So I totally get it, Jason, why you would be like, I want to see what's there. Yeah, if it's easier for you in Clearwater, I would recommend Clearwater for you.
It's interesting how often little fears like that can adversely affect your swim. You know, like even though you can't see bottom, I mean, you know, it's more likely to be true in a lake than an ocean, that you're not going to have a shark attack you, or a great white, or, you know, there's no big creatures here that are any consequence compared to an ocean where there are. So that said, I hate to say this, but it's all in your head, you know.
Oh, I know it is. I absolutely know it is. You know, like
the enemies that you're creating in your head are your biggest problem. You know, when we do a whole bunch of orientation kind of swim practice sessions, clinics, if you will, before the across lake swim, and you know, one of the questions I kind of always ask people is, like, you know, what's different in the lake compared to the pool, sort of thing. And what I'm trying to get to is what people's angsts are, and certainly it's not uncommon for people to say, well, you know, I'm scared of fish in the water, and I'm trying to point out to them the fish are more scared of you. And then of course the inevitable question, well, I can't see bottom, so I don't know what's under there. And fair enough, that's a concern, and it can be quite a legitimate one when you don't know if there is, you know, like for example, a sharp rock, or you know, perhaps you know, a rusty car that you're going to accidentally swim into, or something like that. It is useful to know what's there, and sometimes there's deadheads and logs and stuff that you can get caught on in some way. And I know some very accomplished swimmers who, I know one woman who, she actually won the triathlon world championship in 1994. She's an awesome swimmer. She swims across the lake without goggles, so she doesn't have to see anything.
Wow.
And I know people who actually swim with their eyes closed because they don't want to look. And like, that's got nothing to do with their swimming abilities, but it's just because they can't see a black line underneath them anymore. So, jeepers, I don't know what's down there, but I don't want to know.
I want to know. Yeah.
Yeah, like I know that's not an uncommon thing, right? It's just, you know, whatever it is for you individually that's leading to that. But I mean, to me, I really enjoy talking to folks like you, because like I enjoy sharing in the experience vicariously, if you will. And because I love the water, and I love the water when it suits me. Call it. So.
Yeah. One other thing, Andrea, that you brought up, I mean, that we were starting to talk about, was the cold, and how that, you know, what you see in the water aside, the coldness of the water can certainly affect people's enjoyment of the water, and to some extent even their anxiety in the water, as they, you know, as we all have that, you know, when you first jump into really cold water, you know, you start hyperventilating, right? You just breathe hard. It's like, oh, you know, this kind of thing. And of course, it can completely disrupt the natural, relaxed breathing cadence that you would normally have when you swim in warmer water. And some people don't recover it very well if they're in cold water. And so, you know, they were you know, set to swim, you know, 2,000 meters or whatever, and because the water's cold, they just can't catch their breath, and so they can't find that normal, relaxed breathing rhythm. Do you guys talk about adapting to the cold at all when you especially at this time of the year?
Yes, we do. And actually, it's something that we provide. We provide the water temperature before the practice swim. The lifeguards go and check it for us and let us know. And then we can give people a better tailored piece of information saying, oh, it's 16 or it's 18. For some people, it's never going to be warm enough for them to not sort of feel, oh my God, it's not 25 degrees. Just that they shouldn't just go, like, get in and just stand there, and try and, just get used to it. You don't have to rush. We've got an hour and a half. You got plenty of time, and stay with someone. It's, that's part of it as well. You might feel really comfortable, but you still should be with someone, keeping an eye on you. Yeah, it is. And some people will come out going, I just couldn't relax. Like they're with the cold, but it is, it is a significant thing. The first open water swimming that I did was Canada Day. And I just decided I'm going to do this because I've been a swimmer all my life. And one friend's mom was like, have you done this before? And I was like, no. She's like, okay. And so I just did it. And I just did the little 1K thing, but I got in the water and it was freezing. And I was thinking, I've made a mistake. Oh my God, do I do this? And then I was like, you're going to do it. And then I just did it. And I'm like, do I pull out? Like, do I just pull out? And I was just like, well, I'm not pulling out. So I'm having this battle in my mind swimming along. And I was just like, okay, just go. And I just swam through it. But for somebody who's not an experienced swimmer, I can totally understand why they would panic. Just like, nope, can't, not relaxing. I'm out of here. And it went great. I actually swam quite well. So I was quite happy with myself. And I came out of the water and I was just like, I do remember like, whoa, and couldn't believe it. Like I did it. Like I talked myself through it. But sometimes you shouldn't just dive because.
Do you guys make any recommendations regarding wetsuit wearing and
yes, most people wear a wetsuit. I was wearing a sleeveless booty wetsuit. It was basically nothing. So that was my bad. But I thought, how bad could it be? And I was not very, that I would be a cautionary tale, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we at the Across Lake Swim, we certainly encourage wetsuits. We don't require them. But certainly, and like when we have our event, it's usually in mid-July, and that's usually when the water temperature is comfortably over 20 degrees. And it's generally enjoyable and doable even without a wetsuit, and if you're otherwise a competent swimmer and you have experience. Although having said that, it still depends on your build. I mean, if you have enough generous adipose tissue to keep you warm, it's a lot easier than if you're really thinly built. And we've had, I can think of one Ironman, a woman who was very thinly built, and we sent her to hospital after the swim. She had what's called SIPE, which is sort of an inflammatory process of your lungs because of her response to the cold. She was, and the water. I mean, it was 19 at the time, I think, but you still have to remember that 19 is still 18 degrees colder than your body temperature. So you're fighting the cold the whole way. And as long as you're a fast swimmer, 35 minutes or better, you can get out of the water before it's too harmful. But even on a nice warm summer day when it's 24 degrees in the water, if you're in the water too long and you're thinly built, you can still get into trouble.
Yeah.
What's too long, Mark?
What's too long?
Yeah.
In terms of how long you can be out in the water?
Well, I'm just thinking like it seems like it's a really good point that you bring up. I'm just curious, like if there's some guidelines around that, like. Well,
there's sort of conflicting graphs on that. On the one hand, as I say, whether if you're well insulated, whether with a wetsuit or just naturally, obviously your tolerance to the cold improves markedly. If you're really thinly built, your tolerance to the cold decreases. And then, of course, how hard you swim and how much generated heat you're creating when you swim will also help you get through a swim. So there's not an easy answer to that. And I think this is where everybody has to sort of develop their own sort of mental guidelines. I mean, I know what I can take and where I have to be more cautious. And for me personally, until it's about 21 or 22, I'm always wearing a wetsuit because I know I can feel comfortable in there. I can stop and rest and take my time. I don't have to worry about generating heat. And by the time it's 24 or 25, and the water starts to feel like a pool, then okay, for me again, I'm out of a wetsuit and I'm not worried about it. And the same also goes with wearing just a latex cap, a silicone cap, or even a neoprene cap. Each of those in turn depends on how well your head takes the cold, right? And so I think what Andrea is saying, it's a very good idea to always inform your people when they're going out to swim what temperature water that they're getting into, so that they can start to gauge that, hey, every time I hear it's 16, I know I'm good for half an hour, or I'm good for 40 minutes, or like somebody will be who's thin might say, I can't do more than 20 minutes of this. Whereas somebody else who has a good wetsuit on or has extra insulation body wise, they can be out there an hour and a half, so there's no one guideline. And I think the guidelines are variable with every individual. And I think that's one of the things about open water swimming is that you have to know yourself, your own limitations, and be able to put your brakes on yourself. Because a lot of people have difficulty with that, especially when there's peer pressure suggesting that, hey, let's all go for a swim. And, if you're the only one saying, yeah, you know what, it's not a good day for me, that kind of thing. So we have to take some personal responsibility here.
Yeah, just on that, and I want to go to the open water, the Canada Day race in a second, Andrea, but to what both of you guys were saying, and I'm trying to remember the fellow's name, but he was a swim coach, and he actually drowned just off Jericho Beach, I think 2 years ago, up in Kelowna. And he had gone out for a swim and didn't tell anybody where he was going. I had a heart attack mid-swim.
No.
And so to both your points in the safety issue, it's just really important to to have that spotter, to have that buddy, right? So
yeah.
So Andrea, the Canada Day swim, are you guys moving forward with that this year?
We are going forward with all our races this year.
Okay, so go one by one, like chronologically from the one that is going to happen first to the one that's going to happen last.
Canada Day is going to be our launching swim race this year, as always, and we have not had it since the pandemic hit. It'll be at Sassamat Lake, and if registration isn't already open, it should be open shortly, and it's going to be fantastic. It's our biggest race. We're so excited. It's a wonderful lake, Sassamat Lake, and it's a big fun event. Like, it's sort of our biggest blowout event.
It's an amazing event.
It's so much fun. We're also going to have a Vowza bus, so people don't have to drive their cars. We made that change before the pandemic, so less cars on the road, and we rented a bus, and people can just get on the bus and ride to the beach and get Rockstar parking and dropped off right by where you sign in. And then you don't have to drive home or anything. You just get back on the bus and we drive you back to the meeting place, and then everybody just goes their own way. It worked out fantastic. We've done it once, and then, the pandemic hit, and it was so much fun. I was sort of the hostess of the bus. And
I could see that. Yeah.
It was really fun and amazing. And, yeah, it just was a no-brainer now to continue with it. And it gets cars off the road. And Sassamat Lake also wanted us to have less cars. So we were motivated by the site, by the venue, to come up with a solution. So it's great. It's big. It's fun. And next then will be Kids Challenge, which we did have last year. It was our only race last year, but it was huge because everybody was just itching for a swim race, and it was perfect. We had a fantastic event, and everybody was so excited. And then we're going to have Bay Challenge, which we haven't had back in a while. And it's always, it can be influenced by weather and air quality. So it's a big race, and you have to qualify for it. You have to have a certain race time for a long distance swim to be able to do it. You also have to have a guide boat and spotters, and it's long and cold. And We're actually
when you say it's a big race, you mean it's a long distance?
It's a very long distance race. It usually goes from Sandy Cove to Kitts Beach. We've had to modify it one year, that I'm in my memory, going from Sandy Cove to Jericho, because there was some problems, and it worked out beautifully. Same distance approximately, but this year I think we're bumping it up to 10K. We're going to move the start to a little bit farther west, and it'll still end at Kitts. And I think we had to close it, move from Kitts, because there was a water quality issue that wasn't happening at Jericho. And so for this year, that's supposed to be going from west of Sandy Cove and then back to Kitts Beach. And it should be fantastic. And we also hope that, and it's also going to be wetsuit optional, I understand.
Okay.
Which is also a really big thing, that there's a lot of open water swimmers that are like, I don't want to put on a wetsuit. Why can't we do that? And I think that's the move this year, is we're being progressive with other race events, that it can be wetsuit optional, and making it a 10K is a bigger race that will invite more people who want a longer distance.
Yeah, absolutely. And that race is in August anyways, right?
It is.
Yeah, so it's much warmer. The water should be much warmer.
Yes. Yeah, it gets an opportunity to be warmer. And it I haven't done it. I would like to do it as a relay.
Yeah.
So that's sort of in the back of my mind thing. I'd like to do it as a relay. But I think it's going to be a really fantastic race season for Bauza, because we've got a full slate of races, and we've got some new things happening. So yeah, I think it'll be really exciting.
Well, that's the races that you have. What kind of distances and what kind of attendance do you expect?
We cap out, I think, at 300 for Canada Day. And for Kids Challenge, I think we had a huge one. I think we maybe 150, 200. And then Bay Challenge, there can only be, I think, I can't remember. It's been so long since we've had a race. The last one was, I think there was 2 or 3 relays, and then maybe 3 men, 3 women. Because it's also sadly hindered by being able to get a boat rental that will open up that early in the morning. So you can pick up your boat, say in some people were, it was Sandy Cove for the start, which is early, and also from other providers, let's say Granville Island, like you have to get in there really early to get your boat, and then you also have to get it back.
Sorry, hold on a second. I've got kids knocking on the door. Hold on.
Okay.
You guys go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the boats, do they have to be power boats?
They do. Yeah, they do have to be power boats, and you have to have somebody with a license.
Yeah.
And so there's qualifiers there that not everybody has that on hand, has a boating license.
Yeah.
And the boat safety courses, and then a spotter.
Right. I suppose people in the Greater Vancouver area are much less likely to own a boat, like here in Kelowna. We would not have that problem here. I mean, if I needed a power boat, I can think of 5 guys I could call right now. Yeah.
It's not so much here. It's very expensive to moor a boat.
Sure. Yeah.
And
or store one in your garage.
Yeah. So it's it's a different kind of race, and it's there's a lot of we also have to get permits from the City of Vancouver and West Vancouver.
Oh yeah.
So we have to get other permits because it's starting in a different city. And
that's right.
Yeah.
City to city. Yeah.
City to city.
You mentioned the numbers. How long are the other 2 swims? They're
K2, K4K.
Okay.
And Kids Challenge has, I believe, 1.5, 3, and 6, and a relay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're all wetsuit optional?
Yes.
Do you require any other sort of I'm curious to hear how the idea of swimming with a swim buddy goes over with some of these swimmers.
It hasn't been sorted out yet. Because for our races, we have people, like for the ocean swims, we have the lifeguards out in boats. We also have lifeguards out on paddle boards. So they are to keep an eye on the swimmers. Same thing with Canada Day. And for Bay Challenge, each swimmer or relay has a boat. And we have Coast Guard has to be on board with this and involved and know we're out there. And we used to have Jericho Rescue on board as well, but with COVID and everything, and so many things that were negative impacts, we didn't have their services the last time we had it, because they had their own race events and stuff that they needed to cover off. So it's a very it's a small store to pick from. With swim buddies, I mean, you've got your boat right with you. You have to stay with the swimmer, but not go ahead of them. So you're just plugging along with your swimmer. And also the swimmer doesn't want to inhale the exhaust from the boat. But for the other ones, yeah, we have a lot of safety people on the water, paddle boards, boats, and also on walkie-talkies.
But you don't need to have like every swimmer that does the Kits Challenge, for example, doesn't have to have a supportive watercraft.
No, that's just in our practice course at Kits Beach.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's got the markers. We actually put
right.
In addition to the ones that are on the course, just for practice swims, and then the city markers that show the area where power boats are not allowed to cross.
Right.
So it's got sort of a three levels of visual demarcation of the course and where you may or may not go for power boats.
So do your swimmers then have just the option of wearing a wetsuit and the option of using a swim buddy? Is that how that works?
They are wetsuit optional, swimsuit optional. That's not yet. That's
yeah.
next
Okay.
year.
Well, I look forward to that one.
Yeah, we'll let you know. That'll be a big hit. We'll be racing down at Wreck Beach.
There you go.
Regarding having swim buddies. So that is something that still has to be confirmed. We provide the swim caps for the races based on distance. They get a specific color, and they're all very bright. So that helps us to be able to see swimmers. But swim buddies, we haven't yet finalized the decision on that.
What is this a question of whether or not you make them mandatory? There are some races, for example, in triathlon. In triathlon, they don't allow swim buddies, because they somehow see this as a swim assistant. Which I think is I think it is an assistant to the extent that it gives you peace of mind. But having said that, I don't think it makes you go faster.
It does not make you go faster at all. It's just a safety and visibility thing.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever I'm out there practice swims, or when I'm just doing social swims, I always have a swim buddy with me because it's smart. Or if for one of my friends, if they don't have a swim buddy, it's like, why don't you have a swim buddy? You should get a swim buddy. And if they're not wearing a wetsuit and they don't have a swim buddy, I'm just like, I don't know if I want to swim with them.
Yeah.
Because it lets me know their level of risk is greater than which is fantastic, because with Thousand, we always had to tell people, make sure you have a whistle. And and now it's like, if you've got a swim buddy, got a whistle. And it's just so visible. And it looks so, like, we have these awesome pictures of practice swim starting and everybody with their swim buddies, and it's like confetti being strewn across the water. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Speaking of the risk thing, I mean, I've certainly known times where I've been swimming with somebody that doesn't have a wetsuit or a swim buddy, and here I might be swimming with a swim buddy, and the first thing I'm thinking about is shared with me of a couple of scuba divers, one getting into trouble where his oxygen gets cut off, and he goes desperately lunging at the next guy, and potentially they both go down. And you could theoretically see that happening. If that unprotected swimmer has a problem all of a sudden, and he's just grasping for anything, including the next swimmer, he could create significant risk for that guy too. So that's where sometimes, if you get really familiar with the clasp of the waistband of your swim buddy, you can just click it off and give it to them.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Click, give it, and just that's what they need more. That's what they need more. Preserved, and you can just make your way to shore and get out of the way, sort of thing.
Yeah. I've swum with a couple of people who were very lean, and they were not used to swimming without a wetsuit, and they didn't have swim buddies. And myself more comfortable in the colder water now, and another friend who's done the English Channel, she's totally comfortable, but we both had swim buddies. And these two people, it was different incidences, but we were both just saying, you know what, it's okay. You don't have to swim. Like, you're freezing already and you're just trying to get in. It's like, you know what, and they didn't have swim buddies. It's like, just do it next time. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Like, don't feel like you have not achieved something here, because it's not safe for you. You're super lean and walk you back. Like, we'll swim you back in, because they'd come out so far and they're like, no, it's okay. And I was like, no, we'll come back with you and make it out okay.
Yeah.
Because it's just not worth it.
It's funny how ego really gets in the way there. When you have this sort of perception that I'm going to do fine, et cetera, and yet you get into. I don't think people fully realize the number of risks. I mean, hypothermia is far and away the most obvious one, but it's not the only one. As I mentioned, there are people who develop pulmonary edema as a function of being in the cold, and that's only because they have so much vasoconstriction outside that all their blood supply goes to their chest, and therefore all of a sudden they start actually having pulmonary edema and they can't breathe. And only seen it 2 or 3 times, but you have to hospitalize those people because they can actually get into serious trouble.
Wow.
So that's just one example, but the courage to say no is probably one of the most powerful things that people need to understand. You can say no. We're not going to hold it against you. It's a good thing. You're actually braver than not to have the courage to say no.
Yeah.
I want people to say no on any given day. Like, for example, open water, as you well know, on some days there's a strong current, some days there's a lot of stuff in the water, some days there's big waves, and some people who can swim perfectly great on flat, they all of a sudden get pounded around and dizzy and stuff when they get thrown around with waves. Yeah. And all of a sudden a good swimmer can become a panicked swimmer, and that can lead to tragedy too. So there's 1,000 good reasons why to say no. If you're over your head, you may well be you may well need to say no.
Yeah. And there's plenty of reasons to say no. And that's why the whole, with the practice swims, it's like we give the water condition, and, if, there's a bit of a chop, or there's some big rolling waves, or there's some logs in the course. Because sometimes you get some deadheads in there.
Oh yeah.
And not everybody sees them. Yeah. I mean, there was one example where there was the lifeguard boat, a bunch of swimmers, and a log, and everybody was telling people, and one swimmer, she's a really good swimmer, and we're all yelling her name, and we're just like, oh God, she's gonna hit it. And finally she pops up, and I guess she heard something, and she's like, whoa, because it was like this elephant in the water. It was huge. But it was just, we were all just screaming, and finally she caught it. But there, I mean, you have this little bit out of the water, and then this gigantic log. Yeah. And one swimmer did swim into one, and right in the nose, and it's hard to see them sometimes. Yeah. So it's good to have that sort of update on status. There's some logs around over here by this marker at the halfway point, or out by the pier, just to give people an idea, and they move around.
Yeah. We here, it may not be so much an issue where you swim, but certain segments of our lake has a lot of weeds growing in the lake, and during the course of the summer, the weeds grow up, and of course they actually break the surface.
Wow.
And I can think of one girl who, again, champion triathlete, who absolutely freaks out when she touches something in the water that she doesn't expect. And when it's weeds, she can walk on water. She's moving so fast.
Wow.
Because and her swim is destroyed because her panic is just taken right over, just touching something. And yeah, I must admit, when I swim myself, sometimes, especially at spring runoff, when there's a lot of debris in the water, branches and leaves and stuff, and you're happily in that sort of, that seance meditation mode, if you will, and then you touch something and you like, wait a second, I'm all alone here alone by myself, and you touch something. It's like, what the hell is that?
I know. It's like, oh.
And I'm like, and there goes your breathing cadence, like right now, gone.
It is. It's a live environment, open water swimming, which is, part of the excitement. Like for me, I had an amazing opportunity to go to the Caymans a couple of times, and open water swimming there is magical.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Crystal clear blue waters. And
I know, I think of you actually now, Jason, stepping in and, and like, I can still see my feet. Jason would love this.
Yeah.
But it's wildlife, right? Like some friends and I were there, and I was checking on a friend going, what are you doing? Hurry up. And then I was just like, get in here. There's a stingray. And we were far apart, but there was a stingray right between us. And so we just swam out with the stingray. And it was just like, sure, okay. And then it was like, okay, I'm done. And then it just is gone. But like in open water, that experience just happens randomly, but you have to respect it, that you're a visitor.
I would just, I had one experience where like I dove in the water off a boat. The water was clear except for this one patch of grass, and like I guess my brain must have recognized something before I actually saw it, because I turned and I got out right away. There was a giant octopus sitting right there on the ground, right? And somebody else didn't see it and swam right up to it, and but it's one of those things that you just never know, right?
So never know. Yeah.
But you're right. We are a guest in their environment. So but like this has been a really informative talk, and I really like what I really enjoyed about what you guys had to say is that it seems like apart from your passion for open water swimming, you're really about creating safe spaces for people to come in and join and enjoy the sport or the activity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
As you point out,
sorry?
If we're in a live environment, it's a matter of just understanding that it's no longer controlled. We have to let go of a lot of our preconceived expectations because they're not going to be met. And if you can be part of that, it's, as I once mentioned to you, Jason, just like there's a concept called Shinrin-yoku in Japan, which means forest bathing, which sort of gets you back to connect with nature in a forest. I think of open water swimming exactly the same way, but in the water. And it's funny how therapeutic that is for people who've gotten used to and the comfort with open water swimming. There's no finer form of meditation and relaxation that can set you up for the whole day, if not the whole week.
Absolutely. It's total meditation.
I think that's an amazing place to leave this. This was a great talk. And Andrea, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here, share your knowledge, your passion, tell us what Vowza's doing this summer, and so on and so forth. So when this episode actually goes out to air, we are giving away the safe swimming package. You get a swim buddy, a bright colored cap, and a pair of goggles. Like the video, head over to Instagram, like us on Instagram, and that gets them entered into the contest to win.
Excellent. Oh my God, that was so excited. Yeah, honestly, with the gear and the goggles, I just cracked open a new pair of Vorgy sunny goggles for open water swimming, and I was just like, Vortex. Oh my God, it's just like, don't touch them, like they're perfect. And I was like, wow, I should have switched over earlier, but they're so good. And somebody was asking me about them, and they said, why do you like the ones that aren't just the front? And I said, no, I like the wrap because I like to have more peripheral vision as well. And they were like, oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
I guess it's interesting what you don't know until you try it, right? So.
Exactly. And I was like, they're a little bigger. It's great. So anyway, and I get a little too excited. So
That's awesome. I mean, like you're
People are
like,
like, "Oh, I should try them." I'm like, "You should." Like,
well,
this
make sure everybody
is
can find everything. But look, I thank you both for being here. Thanks a lot, and look forward to connecting again soon.
Yeah.